Hi, and welcome back to the Fourfold Path. I'm Jordan, and we're going to be doing the second gameplay scene here. So, if you watched the previous scene a while back or didn't watch it all, need a synopsis. Our main character, her grad student, Janus, got into a bar fight because some frat boys were harassing some girls. His friend wouldn't stand for that, and Janus got looped into the altercation. His advisor had to come bail him out, and when she drove him back to his apartment, they discovered that his place had been broken into, completely tossed. They then went to Tabitha's place, and she just let him sleep on the couch. In the morning, they drove back and discovered that Janus's hard drive had been stolen out of his computer. So, they're standing there in the wreckage, figuring out what to do. Maybe Tabitha helps him clean up, because that's the kind of person she is. Get his house sort of put back together, and then dips out to deal with sort of the rest of her weekend and relaxing and trying to set the thing behind her for a little bit to brace for what she knows is coming. So the expected scene, in my mind, is that they go to campus Monday morning, and the fallout of this particular bar fight and whatnot plays out. In Mythic, we need to test an expected scene before we move on. So the way you test a scene in the next scene in Mythic is roll a d10, and if you roll over the chaos factor, in this case 6, you get the expected scene. If you get a odd within the chaos factor, that's an altered scene, and an even within the chaos factor, that's an interrupt scene. An interrupt scene is just a random scene, and an altered scene is the scene adjustment table. So right now we're expecting Tabitha and Janus on campus to be involved in this sort of fallout from the thing. Let's see what the dice say, though. So I rolled a 5, which is odd within the chaos factor. So that needs to be an altered scene. How are we going to alter it? We are going to alter it by 5. We're going to remove an object. The hard drive was already removed, and if we look at our scenes and threads and whatnot, there aren't any other objects in there. Janus's hard drive doesn't need to be listed twice. That's a mistake. So remove an object doesn't make sense to me. Let's try again. A 4 is increase an activity. So it was going to be fallout from just the bar fight, but it's going to be more fallout than that. So we're going to increase the fallout. Somehow, they know that Janus crashed at Tabitha's. And so not only is there a honor code violation on Janus in that he was involved in a bar fight, but now there's this cloud hanging over Tabitha as well, because like before it was just like your student got into a fight, you can't control that. But now there's this additional issue that they know that Janus crashed at Tabitha's place. And so that's going to raise all sorts of questions of propriety. And we already know that there's sort of someone on the... there's someone in the department that's sort of... Well, it's going to raise all sorts of questions of propriety that are going to have to be dealt with. So, Monday morning comes around, and Tabitha, it's very early Monday morning, because that's the kind of person Tabitha would be. She would be the sort of professor that's there at, pre-dawn to get a couple of laps into the pool, have breakfast at the cafeteria, and then go to her office. So she's had her dip in the pool, She's had her plate full of cafeteria eggs, and she is settling into her desk with her coffee at 7:15. Janus hasn't exercised, but he did in fact arrive at the laboratory shortly before Tabitha, because he makes a point of getting in before her to show his dedication, because that's how Janus shows up. And both of them open their emails independently to a request for a meeting that came over the weekend. It's not in the email. That doesn't make sense. So they're both sitting there working. Tabitha's going through her backlog of student emails, people asking about courses, whether or not they can skip prereqs or audit. Can't you change my grade, prof? My uncle's cousin's dog died. And Janus is working on his research, trying to pick up the pieces, trying to push the weekend from his mind. And, 8:50-ish rolls around. So they've been at their desk a little over an hour. And there's a little knock at Tabitha's door, which is open anyway. And she looks up and she sees the department chair in the doorway. And the department chair is like, hey, I need a word in private. And Tabitha says, oh, yeah, come in. And he says, no, I need you to come with me. And so Tabitha locks her machine, gets up, and goes with the dean. The chair of the department. And they go to the chair's office. I shut the door. And he sits her down. And he says, so I hear there was a little bit of excitement this weekend. And Tabitha sighs and is like, I fucking knew this was coming, right? But she keeps her cool. I think she still keeps her cool. And she says, yeah, put a pin in that. We need to assign ciphers. So Tabitha almost certainly, I feel like, first of all, she's an adept. And the thing that adepts get are ciphers. And so I want to look through and give her one for the work that she did inside of 377. For the work that she did in figuring out that the hard drive was missing. So ciphers are the thing that make the cipher system different. She's going to get a Cella cipher because we're not in the high fantasy portion of this campaign yet. So it's going to be a cipher that doesn't look like... Ciphers are often fantastic objects, magical spells, that sort of thing. It can't be that because of what the campaign is. In fact, we are going to give... I'm just going to pick one because I think there's a good one to give her here, and it's not going to be in this list anyway. So ciphers are just small bonuses that are situational. They can be really powerful, right? They can be reset all of your healing or automatically succeed at a roll or something like that. We're going to give Tabitha Paranoia. So she has a 2 assets. She's going to get +2 assets on Sense Motive. And -1 asset on Pleasant Social. So because of what happened with her grad student, she's going to be a little freaked out, and she's going to have that cipher. And I think that actually might not be the best of things for Tabitha, all things considered, because I believe that she's already bad at yeah, she has inabilities in charm, persuasion, and deception. So she's not good at these things anyway, and if she uses that cipher, she'll be even worse at them. Anyway, so she's in the chair's office, and he says, you know, I hear that there was a little bit of excitement this weekend, and I was wondering if I could hear your perspective on it. And Tabitha is going to, she's going to engage with that. She doesn't really have a choice given the power differential in the room. But she is gonna, let's go back to her character sheet. She is going to try to persuade the chair to reveal his hand a little bit. And she's like, so something along the lines of, well, what have you heard? And it would probably be exactly that. What have you heard? And the chair is not going to be inclined to give her that information because he wants her to divulge what she thinks is important, wants to know what she withholds too, and if she withholds things. So in order to get him to speak first, she's going to have to use probably charm. Charm seems the most likely. I'm going to say that this is a relatively difficult task. It's a difficulty 5. And Tabitha has a relationship with the chair. She's a relatively new hire. And so she doesn't have like deep years of experience, but the chair was involved in her selection and advocated for her admittance to the department. On evens, he was a detractor. On odds, he advocated for her being hired. Odds, he advocated. So she has an asset because he advocated for her. And it's going to, yeah, she has an asset. I don't think she gets 2 assets. There's another argument to be made that she has an asset because the demographics of the mathematics faculty is very skewed. And so coming down harshly on like the sole female member of the department or one of 2 isn't going to be palatable. So maybe she has 2. So it's going to be a difficulty 3 task to get this to happen. Tabitha's going to use effort, which means this is an intellect task. So she has 1 edge. So it's going to take 2 points to spend a single effort here. So that reduces the difficulty of the task to 2. So Tabitha must roll a 6 or higher to convince the dean to speak first. And 15. Oh god, I hate this die. I'm going to switch over to this one, which is a little more easy to read. So 15. So she's successful, and she convinces the dean, sorry, not the dean, I keep saying that, the chair to speak first. So, what have you heard? And the chair says, well, what I've heard is that your graduate student was in a bar brawl and that you bailed him out and let him sleep at your house. That you bailed him out and that he slept at your house. And Tabitha, ever the skillful negotiator and clever and pleasant individual, is going to say, those are true statements. And I don't think how is the dean going to react to that? Is she just going to say, yeah, that's true. That is Tabitha would say that is a true but incomplete reading of the facts. And then the chair is going to say, well, I brought you here to talk about it. What happened? And she's going to go through the whole thing. So what she's trying to do here is she's trying to persuade the chair to advocate for her in the upcoming proceedings, because she knows that there's going to be a formal inquiry and all of this stuff. If he's having this conversation with her, it's already a formal process, very likely. And so her point of view is to try and get the chair to advocate for her and to advocate for Janus. And so she's going to say, Janus and a friend were out at a bar. Some gentlemen from the school were bothering a group of girls. Janus's friend interceded between those two groups and got in a fight. The gentleman didn't appreciate that he stepped in front of the girls and gave them space to get away, and so they started a fight. Janus didn't want to see his friend beaten bloody, because he was outnumbered 4-1, and so Janus ran over there and got mixed up in the fight as well. I got called because he didn't have the money to pay a bondsman, and he didn't have anyone he felt he could call other than me. And so I went down there and I bailed him out. And then I drove him home. But the thing was, when we arrived at his apartment, someone had broken into it and the cops were out there processing the scene. And you know what it's like out here in February. It's cold. It was raining on Friday night, well, Saturday morning. It was raining Saturday morning, and they'd broken the windows. And I couldn't in good conscience let him sleep in a torn up, flipped over house where he didn't feel safe. And so, and he said he didn't have anywhere else he could go. And it was late, and I put him up on my sofa. And the dean is immediately going to say, why the hell didn't you get him a hotel? And Tabitha is going to say, honestly, I didn't think about it. It was 2 a.m. I was tired. I'd been woken up by my student calling me in the middle of the night, telling me that he was in jail and he needed help. And it seemed like the reasonable, compassionate thing to do was to let him sleep on my sofa. That's what happened. And so she's taking the direct approach with the chair. Very straight shooter, no nonsense. I think the chair is going to appreciate that. And he's going to be inclined to advocate for one of his own professors. And does the chair have any opinion of Janus? I'm going to say that it's most likely that he doesn't know about him at all. So on 5 or less, he just doesn't know the kid. On 6, 7, and 8, he has a positive opinion of him. And on 9 and 10, he has a negative. He just doesn't know him very well. But he does know Tabitha. So I'm going to give it the same difficulty to convince him to intercede on their behalf. So it was a 5 difficulty. But I think Tabitha, by being forthright and by saying, look, I was just trying to do right by this student, I think both of those things are going to play in her favor. And like, she didn't deny anything. She just went into the thing. So let's say it's a difficulty 3 again, because she has 2 assets. She's going to pay to ease it once more because it's important. And that'll make it a difficulty 2. So we're looking to roll at least a 6. We rolled a 10. So Tabitha is going to successfully convince the chair to go to bat for her. So the chair is going to sit there and he's going to sigh. He's like, God bless it. You did the best you could with a messy situation. In the future, I would advise you not to keep a student in your home overnight. That can have certain optics problems, Tabitha. And she's going to look at the chair, confused for a second. And then it's going to dawn on her that he reads her as a woman and doesn't know. Does Tabitha choose to say that in this moment? We need the chair's name. What's the chair's name going to be? He's going to be... let's see. I don't want to pick one of my professor's names, which is going to make it harder. Because... you know, when I'm looking for professor names and department chair names, it's like, well, I know who my department chairs were. Let's say that his name is... he's not going to be Francis, because somewhere there's going to be a Dean, and there's going to be Dean Francis. So that I can continually say, lighten up, Francis. He might come into play later. But we need the chair's name. So he's going to be Chair... and it's a last name, right? So Smith is too generic. Potter. Potier. So the chair is going to be like, look, Tabitha has known the chair for a little over a year. He was part of the hiring process. He knows that she, part of her outreach and advocacy and service work is with the Gay Straight Alliance. And he needs a name. Samuel? I like Samuel, but she's gonna call him Sam. Sam? I'm gay. I like women. I would never with a student, but even if I like women, and he's gonna look at her and he's like, I would keep that argument to yourself when we discuss the matter with Dean Francis and the ethics board, Tabitha. He won't use her full name. He'll say, Tabby, when we discuss this matter with the ethics board and Dean Francis, I would advise you to keep that argument to yourself. And she's going to be very frustrated by that fact. Be like, fine. Has anyone talked to Janus yet? Because, well, he is going to panic. And in that moment, they really bond, right? He looks at her and realizes that she's not all that concerned about what happens to her within the department and within the university. She knows that she's going to weather the storm. But she looks at him and she's like, Jaina, she's worried about her student. She's like, he's not going to handle this well. Even if he's exonerated, this is going to be traumatic to him. Has anyone taken him aside? Has anyone talked to him yet? Is someone having this conversation with him right now? Is someone having this conversation with him right now? That's a fake question. So, are they dealing with it in parallel so that the two of them can't communicate? I'm going to say that seems very likely. So we're going to need to roll very likely at Chaos Factor 6. That is 85 or less for yes, 17 or less for extreme yes. Oh no, what did I roll? I rolled a 69, so yeah. They're having that conversation with him right now. in a different room. So the chair's gonna be like, yeah, the ombudsman is talking, or the director of student life is talking to him now, or is it one of the other CS professors, or is it the director of student life, or there's a dean in charge of graduate studies entirely. It could be Francis directly. It's probably one of Francis's lieutenants and not Francis himself. He has other things to deal with. What I'm trying to think about is it likely to be a friendly face, or is it likely to be Francis? I don't want to introduce a whole bunch of people. We're going to say that it's Dean Francis that's talking to him. So yeah, Sam tells Tabitha, like, yeah, he's talking to Dean Francis right now. And Tabitha sighs heavily and is like, that's going to be rough. And then she sits there and she's like, oh God, I can't help him after this. I can't be the one to do. And Sam's going to be like, yeah, you can't go run to his side, Tabby. And she's going to sigh. Is Janus close with any of the other professors in the department? He has classes with some of them, but he is not as close to any of those professors as he is his advisor. And his friend Anthony is in the Huskow. And he has this weird, stressful relationship with his girlfriend. And so she's going to say, oh, God damn it. And his friend's in jail. And his girlfriend isn't really supportive. Would it be okay if I called Jennifer and had her meet him when he's out of that meeting and just give him someone to vent to? Someone who's been around the university forever, someone who can help him navigate that process. No, that's not, well, yeah, she's going to ask for that. And the chair is going to say, no, like that's, like he's been appointed a representative or whatnot. And he'll have an advocate with him in that meeting. And then she'll say, that's not what I'm talking about. He is going to need emotional support because of this process. He is not going to feel comfortable the whole way. It's going to be deeply, deeply distressing for him. And if he is not ejected from this campus, he's going to have to recover and still do work. So he's going to need someone to help him through that emotionally. Jennifer's been here forever. Do I mean Jennifer? No, I mean Lauren, right? I mean the chemistry professor. Yeah, I mean Lauren. Not Jennifer. Lauren. Lauren is going to be here. Lauren is going to be the support. Is Jennifer the advocate? We haven't really established what Jennifer's job is. They're in each other's orbit. Oh, yeah, she's in the university orbit. Of course, she's part of the university's administrative apparatus. And so she is somehow involved in student life. She might be... Oh, she is a lawyer. Let's say that she is a lawyer. And that she is the lawyer that is assigned to Janus. Because that's nice and fucking messy. What are we going to call this? Honor proceedings? Yeah. So that's the... And the chair is going to be like, look, there's one other thing you need to know. Jennifer is going to be advocating for Janus in this situation. And Tabitha's breath catches. She's like, oh God. And like she's like just takes a deep breath and she's like, she's not gonna sandbag him because of what happened between us. She's not gonna sandbag him because of what happened between us. And she says this out loud in front of the chair. Not because she means to, but because it's so stressful. She can't help it. And the chair goes, yeah, it'll be fine. I'll call Lauren. And then, rather, he says, you go ahead and call Lauren, and we need to talk about what happens from here. And what does happen from there? They, so they would probably arrange depositions for all of the people involved, and that was effectively what this was the chair doing some of the investigation on his own, but there's going to be a more formal deposition that Tabitha has to go through. So that's what he's going to say. He's going to say, look, you have your courses that you have to go deal with, and you need to you have your courses that you have to go deal with, and you need to go do this after you do your lectures. After you do your lecture this morning, you're going to be expected over there. So she goes and does the lecture, and the she's distracted. It's hard. It's difficult, but she muddles through, and then she goes over to the other academic building, and she sits down and waits in the office, and then she's brought in to the dean's office, and then is deposed by the dean and a official of the university, another one of the legal pool that they maintain there for student legal matters, student legal aid, and also for internal university legal matters. And so she gives a statement in the same sets of questions, right? So, tell us what happened over the weekend. We need to hear your side of the story. Don't hold anything back. And I'm going to say that is... we're going to keep the difficulty at 5 here, even though it's kind of like it's... Is it harder? It is harder. It is harder because she is across from a legal expert who's going to press and poke and prod, and on the direction of the dean is going to try to get her off balance and upset so that she overdivulges. She is gonna have some assets, though. She knows she's already told the story once before this morning, so she is going to that's going to help her ease the situation 1 down to a 5. And then she has this deep motivation with Janus, right? Because she was hurt by the system, and here is a clear-cut situation where the university system could really harm him, and so she's super motivated to not have this be the issue. So that's going to ease us down to 4. And her natural guileless disposition is going to act as an asset in her favor. So she, it's going to help and hinder. it's gonna help and hinder. So instead, we'll leave it at a 4, and she's gonna spend effort to ease it down one more step. So she has to spend some more of her intellect points, taking us down to 9 of them. So can we roll above a 9? We can roll exactly a 9. Look at that. Look at that. We can roll exactly a 9 and pass and manage to give a deposition that puts the situation in the best, most truthful light. My student advocated for some women who were being harassed, got drawn into a bar fight. I took him home. His house had been broken into. I let him crash on my couch because what else was going to happen? It was super late. It had been a long night, etc., etc., etc. So, so Tabitha's deposition goes as well as it can. Janus had a deposition, and I want to know how well it went. And I'm going to use Fate for that, because he's not a full-blown character. So, I think that it's unlikely that it went well. We could instead say that it's likely that it went poorly. But I'm going to say, we're going to say it's unlikely that it went well. Well, no, I don't want to do the double negative shit. No, it's unlikely that it went well. So, on a 10, it actually went extremely well, and on a 50, it went well. Okay, it's unlikely it went well. 28. It actually did go well. So Janus, he was weepy and hyperventilating, but he didn't lie and he didn't deny anything. So we're going to say that Janus's deposition went well as well. So what's the next likely thing then? So Tabitha's deposition goes well. Janus's deposition goes well. There's eventually a big formal meeting, and they're both called in, and they're going to say, look, something has to happen because the student got into a physical altercation. Even if it was for a good reason, we can't let that be. So there have to be repercussions. And secondly, even if you had an extremely good reason for having him at your place overnight that is expressly against the code here, here, and here. And Dean Francis, as we established, has an axe to grind against Tabitha. So it's like there's a panel that's going to be doing this review, but he's going to be leaning heavily on that panel because he holds a lot of sway. So we're going to say that it's we're going to do some clocks, maybe? Or racing clocks? Racing clocks feel like the right thing to do here. So, okay. We're going to say that there are... or maybe like a tug-of-war clock, but I'm going to show them as racing clocks. So this is Tabitha and Janus. And this is the Dean Francis. And whoever his mouthpiece is. So there's someone that is effectively advocating for Tabitha and Janus to suffer serious repercussions. So on a failure, I'm going to tick over here, and on a success, I'm going to tick over here, and we are going to set the base difficulty of these interactions at 7, because the dean has leaned in heavily. However, we have the department chair in our favor, so difficulty 6. And Tabitha's deposition went well, difficulty 5. And Janus's deposition went well, difficulty 4. And could we argue this? So Jennifer is the one who's advocating here. So yeah, they get into the thing. So it's going to be a base difficulty 4 at least. Let's see how the thing with Jennifer plays out. They're getting ready to go in. They're sitting in the waiting room. And Jennifer is going over how to behave in the room with Janus. And after she's finished that conversation with him, Tabitha says, Jenny, can a word, please? And Jennifer looks at her and she's like, is this really the time? And she says, it kind of is. And, you know, it didn't end super well. It didn't end horrifyingly. It was as amiable as breakups of long relationships ever are. And she is, Tabitha is going to say to Jennifer, she's like, look, I know that we haven't always seen eye to eye, and things have been rough off and on, and we don't talk for a variety of reasons. But no matter what you may think of me, Janus is a good kid. And he is only in trouble because he did what ethics demands that he did. And I don't care what happens to me, but please go to bat for him because he doesn't deserve this. And so she's trying to persuade Jennifer to if it comes down to Tabitha or Janus, to protect Janus, and 2, to put forth extraordinary effort in advocating for Janus. She's trying to build an asset. They had a relatively amicable breakup, and what is Jennifer's personality like? What did I say her personality like? She's clever and confident. She's pretty. This plea is probably actually harmful for her in a certain sense, because Jennifer is immediately going to think, what's her angle? Because she's not used to deep emotional connections. And so that's what she's going to say. Why do you care? And Tabitha is going to go for the emotional heartstrings. You know why I care. You remember what grad school was like for me. You know what happened. I can't watch that happen to this kid. And she was there. And she does know how it was. And so let's say that it's a difficulty 3 task to build in this asset, and Tabitha is once again gonna spend her intellect pool. So that's 2 more points. So Tabitha is going to spend her intellect pool. She needs to roll a 4. She does roll a 4. So she has Jennifer Fur's extraordinary. So they have this intimate moment, and Jennifer looks at Tabitha, and she uses her dead name, which I haven't decided what it is. But she uses Tabitha's dead name. It's probably something like Terry or Tanner. It might be Tanner. Tanner to Tabitha. That I could see someone doing that. So like maybe her name was Tanner before she came out. It's like Tanner for you. And Tabitha demurs. She doesn't advocate for herself in that moment. She's angry about it. She's gonna swallow her pride though and be like, this is about Janus and getting Janus out of this, and if that's what it takes, I will do it. So anyway, we're down to a difficulty 3. Now, I've spent a lot of my pool. So I'm going to say that at least I'm going to at least do 1 recovery action. So we're going to at least burn our 1 action recovery here. Million to 1 shot, Doc. Million to 1. There's a grommet on my table that allows for cable pass-throughs, and I rolled the die right through it. 5. So she gets 6 points back. Her tier plus 1. So there's your action recovery. And there's your points coming back. Now, I could theoretically also burn the 10-minute one here, I think, as they're in the room waiting for the proceedings to begin. I think her having a few minutes to get some coffee and whatnot and things like that, but maybe there's a break for deliberation near the end where I'm gonna save that. So, all right. So we said it was originally a difficulty 7, but we have the chair advocating for her difficulty 6. Janus and Tabitha both gave good depositions. Difficulty 5, difficulty 4. Jennifer's extraordinary advocacy is difficulty 3. So it's not a detraction, it's actually positive. So she has to make these repeated difficulty 3 tests. And I'm going to spend points every time. So let's roll a difficulty 2 test. We must, I've been saying the wrong word, we must roll at least 6. We rolled a 12, golden. So there's 1 tick. So they get in, they provide sort of opening statements, here's the situation, etc., etc., etc. Do you understand the severity of all of this? Tabitha and Janus both say yes, of course we do. All right, so let's go again. We need to roll again at least a 6 because it's difficulty 2 and we're spending to get there. We rolled a 10. So I don't remember in the previous conversation if we've established how they knew. Obviously, the simplest thing is they know because Janus told them during his deposition that she had stayed there. And they deposed Janus first that morning before asking Tabitha. No, it was simultaneous. It was simultaneous, and we know that the chair said that she had stayed there, so somehow they found out that he had been there overnight. And I'm not exactly sure how that happened, but we can resolve that later. How did they know? I'm going to guess the answer to this is Sarah. But we'll confirm that in a second. It's not the important thing to do now. All right, 2 more points off the top. And let's take another roll. Another 10. So we've got 3 of our 4 segments filled on this clock. So they read in Janus's deposition and asked him some questions. Now they've read in Tabitha's deposition and asked her some questions. And finally, is there anything the 2 of you might like to say in your own defense? And Jennifer, maybe I should have treated this as a cipher for an automatic success, but I didn't. So Jennifer is going to take the stand and talk about how Tabitha came to her and said, I don't care what happens to me. I care what happens to Janus. If you have to throw me under the bus, then do so. But he didn't do anything wrong. He was advocating for those girls. He did the ethical thing. And he does not deserve to be punished for that. Do what you can. And so she's going to say, not only is this woman's argument not incorrect, but she is willing to go to bat for this student in a way that will prevent her from getting tenure. And that should mean something, both in terms of the character of the student and the character of the professor, and how much they believe in the capability and qualities of this student. And it is exceptionally effective. So we clear the clock, and Tabitha and Janus's success are they have a relatively successful argument over that of the dean. They're going to break for deliberations, but because we rolled a 19, we also get a minor effect. And in this particular case, I'm going to decide that it's a new cipher. And it is going to be, it's going to be something around confidence or self-worth, right? Because Tabitha, hearing Jennifer describe her actions in that light, is going to bolster her. So that's going to be a self-worth. Is self-worth the right thing? Is she going to feel good about herself in general, or is she going to feel particularly good about her ability to advocate for Janus? No, it's self-worth. So let's say that we're going to get 2 assets. Well, here. We're going to get D4 assets. We're going to get 2 assets on any task, which is that starts difficulty 5+. So she's going to say, no, I can do this, right? Darn it, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and people like me. kind of a thing, right? So, there's a recess, and it takes a little while for the committee to confer, and so Tabitha is going to take her 10-minute recovery roll in that session. She's going to get 4 points back, and 3 plus 1 is 4 points. And when they come out of that session, it turns out that everyone sees eye to eye with Tabitha and Janice. They behave correctly. It's incredibly stressful to be under that kind of scrutiny from the university and whatnot, but none of them lied. They were all forthright about it, and they argued well that the situation went down the way it should. Now, that being said, Janice still, broke the law by getting into a fist fight, but they're not going to invite the PR nightmare of expelling a student who was advocating for girls who were getting harassed. So instead, Janice is obliged to do community service. Like they're gonna talk to the police and say, look, given what happened, like let him do community service. And so his job is going to be to do it's like, what is it called? It's like bystander advocacy. So when you see someone being harassed, different ways of inserting yourself into that situation, he is going to help the university select a bystander training program and be one of the first cohort through it, and then advocate for attendance in that. I'm just going to write that down because that's involved and I won't remember it. So, that was the outcome of that. And I think that's probably enough for a scene. I don't know what the next expected scene is. Obviously, Tabitha and Janice are going to go blow off steam. They're not exactly going to celebrate the situation because it's not the kind of situation that you celebrate. You know what? I want to ask some questions. Does Janice will Janice accept comfort from Tabitha right now? He won't, right? As a person, that's not what he would do. She would offer it and he would say no. He's going to say no. I just want to get back to the lab and ignore it. So the next scene is going to be the next scene could, in theory, be Jennifer and Tabitha debriefing the situation. It could be Tabitha and the chair debriefing the situation. None of those have conflict in terms of the threads that I'm interested in the way I want. So we'll have to give that some thought. Similarly, we're going to have to give some thought to whether or not the chair and the dean and the dean's mouthpiece are elevated to characters. The chair and the dean probably are, the mouthpiece less so. I don't think this ends up rising to the level of a threat either. It's just, this is narratively the outcome, but I don't think we're going to pursue Janice doing this decision making. We may have Janice's bystander training as a cipher, where the bystander training that the school does gives Tabitha an asset on de-escalation or something. But I'll have to give some thought for what the next expected scene is. Thank you so much for playing through this with me, and I'll see you next time.